Hello, this is your storyteller, Luther. Today, I'd like to share one of the most beautiful lyrical tales in Korean literature. When Buckwheat Blooms by Lee Hyo-seok. Under the summer moonlight, amid fields of white buckwheat flowers, unfolds a story of one man's lonely journey and an unexpected connection. Now, let us begin. On a summer night, our story begins at a marketplace in Gangwon province. The marketplace was still bustling with noise. Merchants who had finished their day's work sat together, sharing drinks and laughter. Among them was a middle-aged man named Heo Saeng-won. Heo was a traveling peddler. Unable to settle in one place, he drifted from market to market, making a living through trade. Even past the age of 50, he was alone. No family, no hometown to return to. A lonely life. That night, while drinking with other merchants, an argument broke out with the hot-tempered Saeng the merchant. Heo Saeng-won, aren't you being too arrogant? What? When was I ever arrogant? As words flew back and forth, the atmosphere turned hostile. Angered, Heo stood up abruptly. Enough. I'm leaving. He gathered his belongings and decided to leave the marketplace. It was already deep into the night, yet he had no choice but to leave. Just then, a young merchant followed him. Sir, may I come with you? He appeared to be about 20 years old. People called him Dong-ai. At first, Heo found the young man a bother. I'm fine traveling alone. Why bother? But Dong-ai persisted. The night road is dangerous for you alone. I'm heading the same direction anyway. Eventually, Heo agreed to travel with Dong-ai. It was a night bright with moonlight. The two walked side by side, talking. Dong-ai, you're quite innocent. The world isn't so forgiving. Looking at young Dong-ai, Heo recalled his own youth. You must have been young once too, sir? At Dong-ai's innocent question, Heo fell silent for a moment. Memories long buried began to stir. Of course I was young once. Back then, I had dreams. And I was in love. Longing filled Heo's voice. When I was doing business in Pyongyang, I met a woman. She was beautiful and kind. But, Heo couldn't continue. Why did you part? Dong-ai asked cautiously. Foolish pride. I thought, what right does a poor peddler have to love? So I left first. Looking back, it was so foolish. Heo let out a deep sigh. I heard she was pregnant then. Sometimes I wonder if that child was mine. At that moment, white fields stretched out on both sides of the road. Buckwheat flowers. The buckwheat fields glowed white beneath the moon, like snow under a quiet sky. Wow, it's truly beautiful. Dong-ai gasped in wonder. Heo too was mesmerized by the sight. Never in his life had he seen such a beautiful night. The two walked slowly along the path between the buckwheat fields. With each breeze, the white flowers rippled like waves. At that moment, Dong-ai spoke carefully. Sir, I'm also looking for my father. Heo's steps stopped. Before she passed, my mother told me. She said my father was a merchant. Heo's heart began to race. Your mother. What was her name? Her name was Moonlight. She was born in Pyongyang. Heo felt dizzy for a moment. Moonlight. That was the name of the woman he had loved in Pyongyang. Heo looked at Dong-ai again. In the moonlight, Dong-ai's face seemed somehow familiar. Perhaps he resembled Heo's own younger self. Could this boy be his son? But Heo couldn't bring himself to speak. He couldn't be sure. Your mother. What kind of person was she? Heo asked with a trembling voice. She was truly kind. Though she raised me alone through hardship, she never once resented my father. She always said he must have had his reasons. At Dong-ai's words, Heo's eyes grew moist. The two walked silently through the buckwheat fields. In his heart, Heo wrestled endlessly with his thoughts. Should I tell this boy the truth? Or is it better to leave it unknown? He wondered if a man who had drifted all his life had the right to call himself a father. Dong-ai, Heo called softly. Yes, sir. Life is a strange thing. Perhaps we go round and round, only to meet again like this. That was all Heo could say. He couldn't find the courage for more. Dong-ai didn't understand Heo's words, but somehow he felt warmth. You're a good person, sir. Thank you for walking with me. In that moment, Heo thought to himself. Though he couldn't reveal he was the father, walking with his son. Like this was happiness enough. The white buckwheat flowers swayed in the moonlight, as if blessing the two men. The shadows of Heo and Dong-ai stretched side by side through the flower fields. It was not mere companionship. Perhaps it was a miraculous meeting created by an old bond. As dawn approached, the two arrived at the next village. I must part ways here. Dong, I said with regret. Go safely. Heo patted Dong I's shoulder once. It was the only expression he could offer as a father. After Dong I left, Heo stood alone, gazing at the buckwheat fields. He would have to walk the lonely road again. But his heart felt lighter. The regret and longing he had carried all his life felt somewhat comforted. Lee Hyo-seok's When Buckwheat Blooms shows us that even in life's loneliness, meetings and connections can bring us comfort. Sometimes, even unspoken truths can hold profound meaning in the simple act of walking together. I hope this story resonates warmly in your heart. Thank you for listening. This has been your storyteller, Luther.